Operation Fill the Wick is well and truly in effect. As I'm recording this video, Bitcoin has dropped back below $111,000. A lot of people were getting extremely bullish, saying that we would be getting a V-shaped reversal. But as I explained previously, when we get massive moves down, like we saw, we tend to go ahead and fill that wick. And sometimes we consolidate at these levels for more than a few weeks. In today's video, we'll be talking about what just happened to the market, how you should be navigating it in accordance to what I think could be happening next, and of course, I'll be taking you through some of my most recent trades, which I am still holding. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So let's start with Bitcoin. What are we seeing here? Well, right now, at the time of recording this video, we are below 110.6K. Now, yesterday, Bitcoin was all the way up to just below $116,000, and I issued a warning because typically we don't just get an immediate bounce when we get such a drastic move down. Now, unfortunately, I know a lot of people that immediately went max long to try and make back some money in this market that they lost in this downtrend. But you have to let the market do its thing before you enter any kind of aggressive positions. There's something to consider here. As Bitcoin continues to drop while I'm recording this video, we have to know that there's also that CME gap between $110,000 and $111,000. Now, this was always going to be tapped into as we normally do with CME gaps. But in yesterday's video, I also discussed the fact that there's a high liquidity zone where people piled into longs. Let me just play the clip quickly. And so at this point in time, I will not rule out the fact that we could potentially come as low as here, $110,000, maybe even $108,000. So I'm still exercising a little bit of caution. Anyways, as you can see right now in the liquidation heat maps, we did move lower and we grabbed some downside liquidity. Now, what I want you to consider here is that there are some people that will start to pile more into shorts. And it's at that point in time where we have an interesting dynamic where we can go and grab that upside liquidity before moving lower. Now, to make myself very, very clear, especially if you're new to the channel, I still think that Bitcoin will move out of this and create a brand new all-time high. But I just want you to exercise a little bit of caution here because yes, we got a nice bounce, but look at where we got rejected from. See this zone over here between 116 all the way up to around $117,000? Well, it's no surprise that this is where we ultimately ended up getting rejected. We tapped into the zone and then we came back lower. And as a matter of fact, $112,000 is a very, very critical level to hold because it coincides with one of the previous all-time highs that we set this cycle. So my eyes were on that level. And remember, I also discussed the fact that if we were to reclaim these levels above $116,000, then I would be considering a Bitcoin long targeting new all-time highs. Sometimes you just have to wait and let the market do its thing. We clearly got rejected here, and now we are comfortably below $111,000. And if we take a look at this liquidation heat map, well, as per my last video, we did grab a lot of downside liquidity with this most recent move down. But there is still right now a massive cluster over here. As you can see, the highest volume point is right around 108.25. Now, previously this was at 110.5, but as you can see, we're now sitting right at that level and we did indeed tap into it. So we liquidated some longs as I started recording this video. Now, you want to consider the fact that we may go ahead, grab this downside liquidity, people start to get complacent, calling for the bear market to start, and then we go ahead and pump. I think the resolution will take a little bit longer than most people are willing to admit here, which is why I've continuously said exercise a little bit of caution. On the 30-day time frame, it's very clear. There is more cumulative short liquidation leverage in the market than cumulative long liquidation leverage. And honestly, from a contrarian trader's perspective, I want to see us grab this liquidity, and I want to see more and more people pile into shorts before I can consider going long at some of our key support levels. Now, what would be those levels? Ultimately, we do have this low here around 107.5K. You can see that we held on to it and then we made that pretty big move up to $117,000, got rejected, came back down, and we didn't manage to tap into these lows as most traders like myself were expecting. Then we came up, finally tapped into the lows. So what I'm looking at here is, first and foremost, When would I say that the bull market is over? Just to reiterate, $101,000. If we start to get closes below that level, in particular below this key level, 98K, then it's at that point in time that I would be willing to say the bull market is over and I will start shorting from there, shorting those relief rallies, that is. But to be perfectly clear, I'm still actively looking for longs in this market, in particular Ethereum. So I want to see how Bitcoin continues to play out, but I am eyeing a massive Ethereum long, targeting new all-time highs once this situation gets resolved. Now I want to zoom out a little bit and just show you what I think could be happening here, because if we really take a look at the bigger picture, you can see that in the previous cycle in 2021, which was the cycle that most people have started comparing this one to, we had two pretty big tops. Now it's a scary thought, because if you take a bar pattern like this all the way to here and I start overlaying it on where we currently are in this cycle, you can see that it's starting to look eerily similar, and we already talked about this comparison on the channel. But what I want you to pay attention to is, what if what we're seeing is more something along the lines of this kind of price action all the way down here? So check this out. If I zoom into the Bitcoin chart, you can see that we had a pretty massive move down, and then it took us quite a while to consolidate from May all the way to July. So if this were to happen, would you get shaken out of the market? Sometimes Bitcoin needs the chance to reset itself. Now, I'm not calling for a consolidation like this, because if we do tend to see this going into the year end, then at that point, I do think it's more likely that we end up moving lower. However, I just want you to exercise a little bit of patience. Most influencers will say, altcoin season is here. We're going to keep going up. That was the shakeout before the breakout. And while I do firmly believe that that was the shakeout before the breakout, we can still spend time at these levels before we go ahead and move higher. It makes no sense, in my opinion, to start rushing into aggressive long positions. And as I said in my previous video, if you manage to catch some solid positions when we wicked this low, then at that point in time, you should have taken profits on the relief bounce, because this was never going to be a massive V-shaped reversal. And speaking of the dump, we do need to talk about what just happened with this whale that we've been covering on the channel at length. He had a $750 million Bitcoin short position open. He made tons of profit on the way down, closed most of his position, and then he kept on adding to his position over the past 24 hours. Now, his position is basically $500 million, and he is sitting in $21 million in profit. Does he know something that we don't? This is the same exact wallet address. And reminder, if you want to be able to track these wallets, all you have to do is type in Hyperscan, and you go there, you copy this address. You can pause the video and essentially copy this, paste it on there, and you'll be able to track all of these whales as we've been doing on the channel. But very, very interesting to see. Now, if we go more here, you can see that over the past 7 days, he's made just shy of $100 million. So let's see how this plays out. But the fact that he's willing to hold such an aggressive Bitcoin short position, continuing to add with his average now at 115.3K, which I'll remind you, we tapped into that level yesterday, tells me that he has conviction that we will be moving lower. And so that's why I kept on talking about filling that wick. Please be patient. A lot of people are continuously getting wrecked in this market, and you want to wait for the proper confirmations before getting aggressively bullish. I know a lot of people also didn't like that I talked about filling the wick in yesterday's video, but as you can see, this is already coming to fruition. If we go on the weekly time frame, we have already begun filling that wick. As I said at the beginning of the video, Operation Fill the Wick is well and truly intact. So, where are we going to end up filling? Where are we going to end up bouncing from? There's always a chance that we can fill 50% of the wick, which would find us right around $108,000, $107,000. Now, what I want you to consider here is I'm obviously looking at the Bybit perps chart. And if we take a look at Coinbase here, you can see that the wick actually only went as low as 107. And so it really depends on where you're trading, if you're trading spot versus perps. For me personally, the only thing that I really do is I check the charts that I am trading. And so if you're on Coinbase, I would highly recommend that you look at the Coinbase chart. If you're on Bybit, I would highly recommend that you look at the Bybit chart. That's how you should be operating. Don't get mixed up with all of these different wicks. Obviously on perps, it went a little bit lower. And if you're just considering from a spot positioning, I still think that we go ahead and move move higher until we get the confirmation that no, we're heading into a bear market, which, to be perfectly clear, is still not my base case. Now, in terms of my current trades, still in my Bitcoin dominance long, I was reading some of your comments saying that I should be closing this position, but honestly, this massive wick for Bitcoin dominance essentially just tells us where we want to be going. And so in my opinion, this will likely, at the very least, get filled mostly. And so I'll be printing a lot on this Bitcoin dominance long, which is found on Bluffin, as I always talk about on the channel. You have that second link in my description down below if that's where you'd like to trade. That is currently where I have most of my active trades. Now, I also do go ahead and use weeks, and I want to show you my most recent trade, which was an Ondo short that I shared in my free premium group. I've continued to hold on to this trade, took some profits. It's now a risk-free position. So if you want to join me and trade in my free premium group, you do have that first link in the description down below. Whether the market goes up or down, we are making profits in this market. And so you click this link, it'll bring you to Telegram, DM me the word premium, and I would be happy to onboard you into my free premium group. This is where I share my own personal trade setups and my own insights on a daily basis. Now, we can also see that pre-market is indeed red for stocks after getting that bounce yesterday, and Fed Chair Jerome Powell will be speaking today. And so this should be very, very interesting. He'll probably give us his economic projections, and we'll have to see if he comes across as dovish or hawkish. Let's see how it plays out. Right now, from an aggressive trading perspective, I'm simply just sitting on my hands. I am also holding all of my spot holdings, to be perfectly clear. Offloaded some of my Bitcoin around $125,000, but I'm still expecting us to likely reach 130 this cycle. But you just have to wait it out, in my opinion. This isn't something that just sends us to new highs immediately. This was quite an aggressive move down. Please don't ignore it. And as we talked about in yesterday's video too, can you handle the fact that we may go ahead and fill the wick as we did back here? We filled the wick, we had a little bit of chop, and then boom, up to the next leg. This could very well happen. We fill more of the wick, we chop around, and then boom, we are looking at over $130,000 for Bitcoin. But if you're in my premium group, or if you've just been following me overall, you know that I am more bullish on Ethereum than Bitcoin. These are the opportunities where you want to look for some solid longs in the market, but wait for the proper confirmations before actually entering any kind of aggressive positions. I need to warn you of that because some of you will just hear me say that I'm bullish, you'll immediately go long. But to be perfectly clear, I am waiting to see how this price action plays out before I execute on any orders. And as I wrap up today's quick video, it's official. We just filled that CME gap. You just saw Bitcoin tick down to below $110,000. Let's see how the price action develops here. If we don't bounce from the CME gap, I do think that we go ahead and fill the wick a little bit further. Look, I get it. It's been a pretty difficult period in the market for most, but try to remain level-headed, control your emotions, and prepare yourself to execute, because I still think that there will be a very profitable period to come. I am preparing myself personally to open up some pretty massive positions, but I am still being patient. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll update you in tomorrow's video.